G'day world. Alabar Jones here, leader and founder of the EarthGuard Astral Projection Group. And today, well, we're working on the Epstein files because, wow, there has been so much spell work on from the dark side on this topic that it cannot be ignored. It has to be dealt with in some way. And what our team we did a mission on this on Saturday, and we did another one this morning, Wednesday morning, Sydney time. And wow, I haven't seen this concerted of an effort to magical effort to redirect public opinion ever in my life. And they're relying on some old spells that they've been using in order to dampen down the reaction to the Jeffrey Epstein. Every time I think about it, it makes me sick. I don't want to relive any of that. And we won't be doing that here. But what we will be talking about is just how serious they are about protecting it. And anyway, I have a few things to share with you. It's quite a bit. So let's get into it. Now, this is where it gets really interesting because they've done so much spell work for so long in order to maintain this leadership caste and the peasants, like, or slaves, or any number of different ways that you describe the people who do all the work and the people who get all the benefit. And this story has been changing little by little, society to society over the centuries. But it keeps coming back to that, the doers and the takers, right? And I'm not a communist, but the whole theme of communism is we're sick of doers and takers, and we want that game to end. I don't think communism is the answer to that, but I understand why, definitely a big why it happened, why that phenomenon occurred, and what it is trying to redress. Because, we keep seeming to fall back into that pattern because there's been so much spell work involved in making sure that pattern exists. And what we're looking at here is collective consciousness issues, programming that everybody sees themselves as small folk or peasants or working class. There's a whole bunch of different words for it. And that set of collective consciousness is a very different set of collective consciousness to the ones that the elites use. They have their own paradigm location, and think of them as different different cities or different lands or different countries on the astral planes, right? Because the rules and principles of this group do not apply to this group and vice versa. The rulership caste has its own set of principles and deep self-beliefs, which the universe is busy manifesting. And the same is that they've programmed this group to do all the work and provide all the benefit to this group. And this group thinks that they own them. Now, sounds wild, does it sound wild? I don't know. But the concept that, a few families, maybe even 13 families of wizards, set about doing all of the spell work required to rule the world, and they succeeded, and that's the world we're living in. Far-fetched? Up to you to decide. I don't know. But, our research says it's pretty damn close to the mark. With the Jeffrey Epstein files, they know that they've been caught red-handed. Literally, like I think there's millions of documents involved in this. And the initial reaction was for, in this group here, the peasant class. And my God, am I going to describe it as that? Well, you know that the elites do. They describe it as the peasant class. Well, God, here we go. The Am I saying it that way? The peasant class were expected to believe that the perpetrators of the crime were going to wrap themselves over the knuckles and punish themselves, which is not part of this paradigm where this group owns the other group, because this group can do no wrong. There is no crime involved. It's not feasible for them to be punished by the law they are there to mete out on this group. This is collective consciousness programming, and be aware there are two very different sets involved here. That collective consciousness is not one, it's not, it's not a singular concept. There is room for many different concepts within it. That's why there's a room for capitalists and a room for communists and a room for anarcho-syndicalists and all of the other political bents, libertarians, whatever you want to do. They're all here. There's room for each of them. Each of them own their own territory on the astral planes. Um, Relevant to their idea set, and it's populated by the people who believe that. Fair enough, right? But so collective consciousness is not everybody is tarred with the same brush. There's different groups doing different things within it. Very important concept. And what has happened is this group has programmed themselves as the takers and this group as the givers. Or they haven't programmed themselves, they have been programmed. There's a lot of mechanics involved in that, but I don't think any of the basic ideas that I'm sharing with you are really a surprise, are they? If you've been living on Earth, you've seen this stuff. And so these people were expecting the elites to punish themselves. Strangely enough, it's a week long, it's a week on since the Epstein files have been released. And has there been any arrests? I haven't seen anything of it in the news. And so this group of collective consciousness is like a deer in the headlights. They go, we don't know what to do. We've been betrayed. They're bad guys. And they're all shocked and trying to back away, which is where our team came in, you see, because the motivator that we wanted to install or that we did install was anger. Like you've been betrayed. This is, and one of the big things that they need to say here is this is our world too. We have a right to express ourselves and not put up with this abuse. Not my children. These are all ideas that we've been embedding into this set of consciousness here, specifically on the topic of the Epstein files. And sort of getting them riled up, not making them feel alone and isolated, which is another part of this collective consciousness that's been programmed by this group. And competition and collaboration rather than competition. There's a lot of good ideas, and I don't think I've done them all justice, but like the whole concept is that this group can rally on this issue. They can all come together on this issue. Now, of course, the elites had warning about when this was going to be released because they knew when they planned to release them and what they planned to release and how much of it they planned to release and what material they planned to release. And, since they own the legal system, how they dispense justice. Oh my God. Um, so that's why nobody's been arrested. But what they did was they employed some of their very, very best secret keepers, and they have a number of them. They have a coterie or a coven. It's a large coven of really high quality wizards who build an information protection wall. It actually looks more like a hedge when we see it. Like it's not it's not a brick wall or an iron wall. It's a very thick hedge. And see, maybe you'll get through a couple of the secrets, but then you get stuck. It's supposed to be you're supposed to be able to scratch at the surface of it, but not be able to get all the way through. Well, strangely enough, our team has a very different set of skills, and we started dispelling all of the ceremonies that they did to install that secrecy. And a good 80 to 90% of those spells were enacted through Moloch. Is anyone familiar with Moloch? Well, here's a picture of him at Bohemian Grove. This picture's the one that made Alex Jones famous. Yeah, and he's the first guy to really unveil elite satanic worship. Well, Moloch, he's not famous outside of satanic circles because Lucifer and Satan are the big ones that everyone talks about. But all of the people who've done ritual to Satan, who've done the sacraments of Satan and Lucifer, or people who've devoted themselves to them, goddamn suckers, a lot of them. I don't know what you'd want. Like, there's nothing that should make you want to do that, but we don't live their life and we don't have their sanity. So God bless them. But there is one demon lord who does the day-to-day work of that of those devotees to Satanism, and his name is Moloch. So if you have a secret to keep, you do a ritual to Moloch. If you see some money you want to steal, you do a ritual to Moloch. If you see some people you want to kill, do a ritual to Moloch to make sure it's successful. If whatever nasty game you want to play, the day-to-day secretary or magical butler work that the elites need to maintain their position, well, it's Moloch who does all of that. And this spell is 80 or 90% Moloch generated. And, Moloch and I know each other quite well. He keeps ending up in hospital every time he meets me. I've tried to completely destroy him a number of times and failed. But if I keep trying, sooner or later we'll get it right. I'm sure of it. So that's our plan, is to keep doing that. But that wall of spell work that the elites had installed to partition the perpetrators of this satanic lifestyle, let's call it what it is, this is satanic lifestyle. The people who are involved in that is to protect them from, well, the peasant class, the people who are exploited through satanic lifestyle. I'm not sure if this will result in some real penetration or some real difficulties for those involved in the satanic lifestyle, but I think we're going to keep doing work until it does, because there really is no better opportunity presented to give those people who are selling out the human species. Don't think of them any other way. Satan's told them he wants this planet. They've agreed to help him and sacrifice the rest of humanity. And just as a personal note, what would you accept to take on that task? Because I don't have a price to do that. There's no way I would ever do that. But these dorks do have a price. They do know what they want. And they're traitors, they're treasonous to our species, and they should be treated as such. And if we don't push this now, will it ever happen? So our team's going to keep battering down that door. It's going to keep knocking on that protection, that ideological safety net they've built for themselves, that ideological safety fence or hedge that they've grown for themselves. We're going to keep hitting that until it breaks and until people go through and make justice happen. So we're watching the news keenly. We're very excited for what comes next. And yeah, don't forget, this is your world too, and you have just as much input as to what happens here as anyone else. So if you were ever going to get loud about what you think is right, now is the time. Yeah, look, my love to you all. We're going to keep working for you guys. My love to you all. Stay well, and may the force be with you. Bye for now.